Welcome back to day 12. Hey, if you guys are enjoying this course, hit reply and let us know. Any testimony you want to send in, any questions, any way we can help, we're happy to do it. I hope you guys enjoyed yesterday me ending on mindfulness. Man, that's really been caused a major shift in my thinking. That whole idea that we talked to about those different kind of attributes, or attitudes of mindfulness, just not judging and just not knowing you don't have to know everything, and relaxing and letting go. It felt so good, didn't it? So today it's a little bit harsher. This is something I've talked about several of these before. I'm going to call it CCBE, but it's only because that's the only way I could remember the four of them together, because to me they all are kind of similar. Complaining we talked about before. I mean, you can only complain if there's another person, right? If you're by yourself, what are you complaining about? You might talk negative to yourself, right? But complaining is, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of science about the stress and the belly fat, and how you can actually store fat when you complain. You increase your insulin and your glucose. I mean, there's a whole chain reaction when you complain. We did one of the challenges in Transform One on complaining because of that, and I found that it's best for me. I cannot practice gratitude and complain at the same time, so then it is a no-brainer. I'd rather try to live in a space of gratitude. We'll talk more about that. But comparing, there are times that comparing is okay, because you go, look at her, look what she did. She's my age, she's my height. She was overweight for 20 years. I mean, maybe I could look similar to that. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if it's realistic, I mean, you're not going to have a 20-year-old body ever again, I don't think. It'd take a lot of work and a lot of money. And none of us care about that anyway. But I'm just using that for an example, their house to my house, or, in managing people, well, why does Sally get to do it and I don't get to do it? I hear this a lot, kind of stuff, right? From other nurses, like, well, she's late, nobody ever says anything, but the minute I'm late, no, that's comparing. That'll destroy you, okay? Blaming. This one is real. I don't know. Some kids tend to do it from early on. They say it's childhood trauma, that why people are very quick to blame, and instead of taking responsibility. And I have learned my life is better when I don't blame. It doesn't matter why that somebody left the car on and it didn't start. It doesn't, or it didn't turn the lights off. I'm using that for an example. I don't think that happens anymore today. But just as an example, somebody laid the key down and now we can't find it. Or, I don't know, somebody forgot to put out order the dog food. It doesn't matter what it is. It's blaming. Sometimes we blame ourselves. We blame others, we blame ourselves. It's just, all of these are negative emotions that absolutely can destroy you, sentence by sentence by sentence by sentence, thought by thought by thought by thought. Explaining. This is the E part of the CCBE, explaining. Sometimes, too, we have to explain, okay? Overall, I find that my life is much better since I don't do these things anymore, okay? Or since I have a practice of trying not to do these things. Complain, compare, blame, or explain. Sometimes you have to say, hey, I'm late. I was stuck in traffic, right? But then to go on and on and on. The need to continue to explain. I see that a lot. I have people that comes up in multiple conversations. Well, you see what happened? I was going to go, but then this happened, and then this happened, and then that happened. No. A lot of times if there's an event and you don't want to go, it doesn't matter. You don't have to explain yourself. You do not have to explain yourself. Okay? So I find myself, people say, oh, well, I know you don't like, maybe I do or maybe I don't, but they're just trying to get you to explain yourself. I don't have to explain myself, and neither do you. Okay? All right, let's dig just a little bit deeper. So what happens when you complain? I said, let's go back to the first C, complaining. First of all, it makes you store fat. Okay. So when you complain, your body releases cortisol. We already talked about that a few days ago. That's the stress hormone. We need it. It helps us lift cars and run in and save babies from burning houses. It helps us spring into gear as nurses. It helps us deal with the fluctuations of our job, our marriage, our life. We need it. Okay. But when you complain, you release it. And ultimately, the trickle down effect is that creates a stress response that leads to not only the release of cortisol, but it is a glucocorticoid, meaning there's glucose in it. And it absolutely impairs the way insulin works. Then the cortisol stimulates more glucose production. Then it's converted and stored as fat. So while it is a stretch to say complaining makes you store fat, it is the truth if you get down to the biological parts of it. And we did our little challenge already, and I challenge you that when it comes up, just like think of it that way from a scientific aspect, right? And how it's fascinating, isn't it? That when you can think, oh gosh, I was complaining about a lot. I was complaining about work. I was complaining about the husband, complaining about how to do the housework, complaining about the kids, And maybe you guys don't do this, but it's very easy to complain half the day, right? And think of what you're doing to your body. And think of it as every complaint is storing fat around your belly. So maybe that'll make us think less about complaining. All right, compare. Comparing is depressing. Okay, there are some studies out there and ways to look at it, but that you could say, oh, I could be in a positive way, in a way that you admire somebody and you go, oh, I could do that. Oh, she went back to college and graduated from college at 50. Oh, I could do that. So when you're looking at it from being inspired, right? If you're looking at it to help you be more aware, like, wow, I didn't realize that at 65 people could still bike 50 miles. Wow, I wasn't aware. And then it can motivate you to improve, like, hey, you know what, maybe I could try a little bit or go back to college or whatever it is. Simplify, minimize, right? Comparison can also help you set realistic goals, like, hey, you know what, it's okay. I probably could tackle on this little project on the house and paint this one bedroom. Okay, I mean, she painted her whole house, or they, whatever it is. It helps you appreciate what you have. Okay, these are positive things for comparison. It helps you appreciate what you have. You look and you go, wow, I'm so blessed. I think of it all the time. I'm so blessed I live in Florida. I'm so blessed I have like all these and it was a choice. I chose to move here, and it was very difficult, but it helps me appreciate what I have. Comparison can also just help you reset. Like, wow, I look over here and I see this person doing this and this, and I see excuse me, what they've done with their life, right? I see how they've managed their marriage and their kids. And again, it's not to, oh, I can't I be like them and lose 5 pounds, or why don't my body? It's just a way to be inspired, okay? So if you use comparison that way, that's so important. But did you know that, the whole idea behind comparison called the social comparison theory back in the 50s, and it was an idea that an individual person looks at their own worth based on how they stack up against others, and it has created that whole idea of, it was meant to say, these are my people or not my people, right? To be able to go into a group just like our group, and okay, transform, even more specific. These are our people. Like, we pretty much align. We believe kind of the same things. Okay, that's okay. It's the original idea, but for comparing was in that way. Now there's this whole phenomenon about anxiety, comparison anxiety, because of you can see so many more lives. You can see more into how the wealthy live, or how actors live, or how your cousin and wherever lives. And because people share so much of their lives, so it does kind of give you some kind of weird rose tinted glasses of, oh, look at their life, they're happy, oh, look at her body, she looks skinny. Every person that is in social, well, not every person, but many people that are in social media are only going to put up their most flattering pictures, right? I mean, most people are not going to go and go, this is a horrible one, let me stick it up there. I do that sometimes before, for the before and afters, but we all want to put our best foot forward, right? So but comparison's depressing, and we know that people that are depressed are heavier. Okay, they're more likely to have insulin resistance. They're more likely to have a myriad of other problems. So don't compare yourself. There are more than 30 studies done on social comparison and health, and it all says the same thing. Comparing yourself is depressing unless you're using it to inspire yourself. So I don't know. I think it's a really good thing to think about. Let's talk about the blame just for one more minute. Feeling bitter interferes with the body's normal hormonal and immune system. This was some research done out of Concordia University in Montreal. And it was pretty interesting because it's like this whole idea of, well, the study was really tied to that heart disease, that people that were bitter and angrier had higher blood pressure, they had more heart problems, a higher heart rate, and they were more likely to die of heart disease or other illnesses. This is real important, right? So blame is really means to find fault or hold somebody else responsible. We can blame ourselves, we can blame others, but ultimately it's rooted in anger that leads to bitterness. And there is a side of all of us, kind of like in a wave. It feels wired, like she did it, he did it, they did it, instead of to look at ourselves, right? They say that it usually comes from traumatic childhood experiences. And use that for reflection on all these things, the CCBE, right? The comparison, the complaining, the blaming, all are negative, real negative mindsets. And if you stay, or you catch yourself, and you can create practices to go, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who spilt the milk. It doesn't matter who didn't put it back. It doesn't matter who turned it off. It doesn't matter who didn't show up for the meeting. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. If it matters so much that you philosophically need to change your environment, that's different. But otherwise, we get caught up and it steals our peace. All of these things. You can't complain in a peaceful state. Unless it's something positive, you couldn't compare. Oh, I'm a turtle and she loses weight so fast, and she why does she have like that perfect blonde hair, or why does she have that tiny waist? I mean, what's up with that? That kind of thing. But it's just, the whole idea is that you just use it for learning and catch yourself. And you'll see that when you can turn these things to gratitude, like I do this all the time with Wayne. Like I turn it to gratitude, like, gosh, I'm so thankful he's easy to get along with. I'm so thankful he has a wonderful job, and all these little things that irritate me, I just have to let that go, and because I want to stay in my peaceful state. That's why I try not to blame, compare, and or complain, because it ruins my peace. And those people that know me today know that I don't let a lot ruin my peace, because at the end of the day, that's all we have. So don't do it. Practice the mindfulness we talked about yesterday, letting it go, acceptance. It doesn't matter who did it. Don't hold the animosity. Okay, let it go. Then the E is explain. You don't have to explain yourself. Again, they say some of these habits come from some type of childhood trauma. Sometimes it comes from abandonment, and then they learn how to please others. And this could be, you don't even remember, like you thought your mother left you and took you to your grandmother's or somewhere, and you couldn't find her, and you thought she left you. You just don't know what implants in a child's brain. And then they become people pleasers so that they won't be abandoned. And then they feel like they have to explain themselves. So, like, oh, well, this is why, this is why. So you please that person. This is why I was late to your party, or I couldn't come to your party because I had to do this and I had to do that. No, I'm sorry, I just couldn't make it. Over explaining can also be a trauma response. It adds, you add a person with anxiety, ADHD. I mean, a lot of these types of behaviors are deeply related in some way. Overeating and impulsivity, a lot of these behaviors go together. It's fascinating the way that the anxiety, the ADHD, the impulsivity, that people that have those characteristics tend to be the people that would be trying to explain themselves away. Okay, sometimes you feel the urge to do that, and again, sometimes it's just like comparing, and sometimes it's helpful to say, hey, you know what, I'm late because I got caught in traffic. But that's enough. I think if I were to suggest some ways that not to do that, it would be just realizing you don't have to. You don't need to justify anything. You don't owe anybody an explanation. And be confident in what you choose. Be confident in the decisions that you make every day. And I'll give you a prime example. I was invited to a birthday party, and it's a friend, but I had another friend in town for a week. I was having a girls' trip, and I couldn't do it. And she's not, like a best friend, but I couldn't do it. I've taught you guys about circles and the whole, relationships and the Help Me Get It Together series. And, by now, I have to be confident in my choices to say, I can't make that one, you know? Understand you don't have to please everybody. That goes back to that. At some time, maybe you were abandoned. I don't know. These are just one explanation of it. I know for me, I look at it as talking too much. So for me, because I talk too much, I and I honestly say I want to listen more. Like these are skills that I want to grow in. You understand, being a better listener, that kind of thing. So I'm saying to you, a skill that I have grown into is being aware. Just being aware. I just don't mean I still don't explain. I still don't blame. I still don't, complain or compare. I do all that. That's our human condition. But just being aware of it, knowing you don't have to please everybody. Knowing, this is another big one. Not everybody's going to understand. You could explain it for 22 hours and they're not going to get it. My brother used to have these, I mean, he still does, I guess. I haven't heard it in a while, but he would make this statement up. They won't understand it if it doesn't lean to their direction or lean to their favor. And he used to say it all the time. And then one day it hit me. They don't want to. If they wanted to, they would, they could, they can't, they ain't. It doesn't matter. They won't understand. Not everybody's going to get it. So save your breath, save your words, don't explain. And be okay with being misunderstood. It's okay. It's okay. If somebody says she didn't come to my party because she didn't want to come to my party because she's a recluse and she don't like me, okay. That's not true. I like you and I'm not a recluse, but that's okay if that's how you feel. You understand? So being okay with being misunderstood. I'm misunderstood all the time. Are you? I don't need to explain myself away that way. I make the decisions I make. I try to make the best decisions I can make for myself and my family and what God thinks of me. And so that's it. That's how I do it. That's how I run my life these days. And so I hope this is a good one for you guys. I hope you'll take some time to reflect on all of this and write each one down, and maybe you even make it a weekly challenge for yourself, and you say, hey, you know what? This week I'm going to catch myself every time I try to explain. And I'm going to see, listen, you can even, this is good right here. This is really worth the 19 minutes. You can even get caught up in the habit of explaining yourself away. Oh, it's okay for me to have this. Oh, it's all right. I did so good the last couple of days. It doesn't really matter. I'll probably be able to fit in that dress anyway. Or you know what? It's all right. I got to give myself a little break every now and then. You can find yourself explaining yourself away. Don't do that either. When you, in the morning, Get up, and your you is true, and your you is you, and your true is true you. You know what you want. You know the life you want. You know the body you want. You know the health you want. You know how the peace you want. You know who you want to surround yourself with. Don't get caught up into explaining yourself away. Don't explain yourself to others, and don't explain yourself to yourself, because the real you knows what you want. They know the real you knows the direction you want to go. Okay, so I hope you guys loved today. I loved it. I mean, these are things that I try to live every day. They've very much indeed helped me. I would love to see you write about it. I would love to see you speak to, this focus, and add it into a weekly challenge. As always, planning, thinking about what you're eating, making sure that you're eating food you like. Okay, the whole idea of normal eating is enjoying food that you like, that's not only good to look at, but it's good for you, that's actually nutritious. And you have lots of options with that. There's hundreds in your grocery store, and we all like a little snack, and we all like a treat, and that's okay too. But I hope you like today, and I will see you tomorrow.